Go ahead and hang this up really quick. Um, it is Halloween. Let me hang this up really quick before I get started. So if you guys hear noise in the background, man, it is 6:13 p.m. So it's getting nighttime. Um, I would imagine some kids will be coming out soon trying to get candy. I know for the past, I really can't say how long it's been, but for the past several Halloweens, I'm gonna say past, when the hell did I close that? Past several Halloweens, it's been like shit. It's really been like shit. And I say that because, when you're older, you're gonna count how many trick or treaters, you get compared to when you're younger. You're gonna count how heavy your candy bag is. And for the past several years, like I'm just gonna be honest, it's really been like shit because nowadays there's no more kids. There's no more people that like to go out on foot anymore. It's just like a lot of fun now, has really been taken away because you got a lot of these kids now that being, bought by propaganda, um, the sports games, and false sexual identity crisis as well. And you have those that are just too afraid to really just go out there like it used to be, and try to have a, decent childhood and actually dressed up. And a lot of it's just fucking bullshit now. So, I'm not expecting this Halloween to be great either. Now, I also have dogs. So if you hear dogs barking, I do have animals. I am burning some CDs for, the last project of this year for December. Those that don't know, I am a musician. So, there's all that. Um, so the stories I'm going to tell are stories that have surrounded me, my life, because a lot of it's going to do with with my mother in the first part. That's going to lead to my own experiences, as well later on. And I'm not originally from the south. I'm actually from up north, from Butte, Montana, from Great Falls to Billings. Now, I've been down south since I was like the age of 3 years old, and that's all I really know. So I really don't claim the north like that. And Montana is one of the most haunted states in the U.S. But a lot of people don't really investigate there. I would imagine there's quite a few abandoned places, but one of the reasons for it, man, it's like one of the some of it, if not all of it's one of the most high drugged, you know, cities in the U.S. where there's like a lot of crackheads and drug abusers who are known as drug users at that. Um, so yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and really get into it. And the house really that began, I know they used to call it the 4-7 Club, I do believe, and 4-7 is one part of the address, and a lot of people would go there, you know, to my grandfather's house. My mother stayed at for years on end, would go there, and party. So rather than to go to the bar to the club, they would go and party a lot, over there. And this house had some activity, in it, poltergeist at that, and I would imagine there was a lot more that really went on. And not so much of this really started happening until, after my mother's mother passed away. And that's what it came off towards as me. Now, I don't think that, if somebody passes that they're going to visit you in a certain way. They're not going to try to haunt you. And think one of the reasons why this house was active, if not two reasons, which I will build into, and not so many stories were really told, you know, prior in this house. Some of it, I know one, I think my mother's laying on the couch one day or in her bed at this old house, where she, well, first she grew up in a trailer park, then a house, but in the house, a lot of it felt like times, she was being watched, going into her being like she felt like an animal crawling on her, and at times the weight of that field, whatever's crawling on her, would shift and feel like somebody, sitting on you, as in a human being. My grandfather, he was used to that kind of thing. He was always used to that. And I wish he was, really alive. I remember him somewhat, but not that much. But, I really would have enjoyed hearing some stories from him. There were times, one of, my uncle, one of them at least, come to find out he was into a lot of the devil stuff and playing with the Ouija board. And when you do with Ouija boards, you do open a portal to the supernatural, to the realm of demons, things that can really enter in. And I know one day there were people, I guess, downstairs, and I'm trying to remember this story specifically. They were downstairs, and I guess they were hearing a rolling sound, a rolling sound. I couldn't figure out what the rolling sound, was. And they started hearing a thump come down the stairs. Thump, thump, thump. And then I guess, a basketball rolled into the room where everyone was kind of at, chilling at the time. And the ball came out from my cousin's room. Now, my cousin was downstairs, and, he used to play ball and all that mess. So, you would hear things, like that. Now, one thing I can remember is an eerie feeling at a young age. And when I was born, my grandfather, was around, but I don't remember too much. But one feeling I got, I think I was in my uncle's room. Well, not my uncle's room, going into my grandfather's room. And he used to buy boxes of certain chocolate bars, And he was strict on a lot of kids. A lot of the kids that were in the family. Not really towards those me. He wasn't. But he was strict towards others. And if I remember correctly, I do believe my uncle's room, about a couple of inches away from my grandfather's room. And my uncle had this demonic head poster hanging up on his door. It wasn't necessarily the poster that felt uneasy. It's the presence coming out of the room that felt really uneasy. Just really uneasy. I can't really tell the feeling, but it was like uneasy. Matter of fact, I want to add some effects to this video since it's Halloween. Let's add the pumpkin. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I don't like that. What else we got? Hmm. Okay. So, a lot of it, really felt uneasy. Oh, I like this effect. We gonna keep this throughout the whole video. So, it really would feel uneasy. And I guess, and the house is no longer standing anymore. I mean, I don't know when it got torn down, but it's no longer standing. But I guess during the process of getting torn down, they found a woman buried inside the wall at the house. So they found a woman buried inside of the wall in the house, and no one ever knew that. Like, no one ever known at all. So that was pretty creepy. And going into the next story, again, still goes into Montana. And the place where we stayed at, and I'm going to give you guys some backstory so you guys can get an understanding of exactly, you know, how so much of the activity came about. So it used to be a burial ground, used to be a cemetery. Then after that, they built a morgue on top of the cemetery. So already right there, you have a cemetery with people that have passed on to the other side, probably not even moved. Probably not even moved. There was a time where they just built on top of it without moving bodies. Then you have a building that holds people when they pass at the morgue for autopsy reports type of deal. So already you have those that passed on and those that are pissed off because when you die, you separate into three parts: the body, the soul, and the spirit. The spirit is what stays on earth. The soul is which goes to heaven, which you still carry, who you are, your personality, and your character. The body is just the shell. So there's that. And then they built a hospital. Now the hospital's still there. So after the morgue, they built the hospital on top of the morgue from the ground up. And then they added apartments to the hospital. So if you knew somebody that was in the hospital, you could rent a room. Now, I don't know if I doubt any hospitals probably still do this. I couldn't tell you. I know where I stay at now personally down here in South in Tennessee. No. So throughout the time, even if you were looking for a place, to stay at to rent, you would be able to do that too. And so already, again, you even have a hospital, and in hospitals, you know, people are gonna pass as well. Obviously, there's it's obviously, and a lot of the activity which would go on, there would be times where I would wake up crying at night, and I don't remember it. I don't remember it because I was still a baby, so I don't quite remember it. And I would be crying, and people, would wake up. Now we all know kids, babies cry at night, but when you're in a place that's heavily active like that, you're gonna be disturbed by something that's bothering you. That's no doubt. Well, I guess one day, my father, he would sleep with his door open, and my parents, they don't stay really together anyways. But even then they didn't stay together, even though they're married. So you can be married and still not live together in the same room per se. And my sister, stayed in this apartment hospital, along with us. So, my father would sleep with his door open, and he woke up one night And he looked and he thought what he saw was my sister in the doorway, so he kept calling her name. He kept calling her name. He kept calling her name, calling her name, calling her name, and just didn't respond back. So whoever it was that looked like my sister, you know, decided to walk away. The next day, my mother went to my sister and asked, "Hey, why was you standing at such and such's doorway?" It's like, I wasn't standing at the doorway. No, it wasn't me. I was in my room, which was creepy. Then there was this bathroom, and it kind of gives you a glimpse to share. Anybody that's from New York and Brooklyn, I do believe, the brownstone type of apartments where you have these rooms that people stay at, but you have to share a kitchen, you have to share two bathrooms. It's kind of like that. That's how this apartment slash hospital was. There was a bathroom that people had to share. I guess somebody committed suicide in this room, in this in particular bathroom. Like, I think they hung themselves. And people wouldn't want to use the bathroom because you could literally hear breathing. No one else in there. It's pretty high off the ground. So, you could hear breathing. No one wanted to go in there, because of that. Also, going into the same building, one night, I should say, my sister was in her room. I don't think it was the building. So I guess let's go a bit more further. I don't know where she stayed at the time, but I guess she stayed somewhere. And I guess the place where she's staying at was kind of like a house ish or apartment type of deal, not a big apartment. It would either be the 2-story or 3-story type of apartments, from what it sounded like, to me. I guess she's in her room one night and she could hear the sound of furniture moving. Now, to remind you, she has, I think it's like a 3-story apartment, 2 stories at that. So she was on top, and I think she had the highest one that we go to, which is only 3 stories, which is big, but it's not that big. And she heard furniture. Now, there's no attic or nothing. You know, there's no attic or anything. It's not one of those apartments that's, you can go on the roof on either. It's not one of those. Which you could hear it. She described the sound of moving, like furniture. Never really figured out why that was. And again, there's no top floor. It's just your limit. Like, that's it. This is the end. You can't go up any further. There's nothing on top. There's no other room. But there was just the sound of scraping of furniture out the ceiling. So there's that. Going into, I'm gonna, some of my brother-in-law's stories, and he has quite a few. I call him Uncle. That's what I always known him as, even before, my sister and him got married. I always referred to him as that, and it's stuck ever since. And one story that in particularly, like he has tons of them. One story in particular stands out to me. A lot of people would see somebody look like a half goat, half man. I guess one day, he was walking, and it's at night, He's seen what the thought to be a man and then appeared as a goat. And I guess it actually what he's described as the devil. So that was pretty creepy. Now, I know one time, he does have a brother, an actual brother. And I guess they were, at an apartment. I don't know the story in particularly to detail, but I guess they were at an apartment, and it was snowing at this time. Now, when it gets cold and snow, just you're gonna have some power problems, electricity problems, because The cold it gets, even with snow, it's gonna interrupt a lot of things. And when you walk, you can hear the crunching of the snow. You know, and crunching of the snow gets pretty loud based on how many people, quote unquote, out walking at the time. And it was just him and his brother, and they heard some pretty loud footsteps in the snow. I know that don't make sense. Like, how can footsteps be loud in the snow? I couldn't tell you. And they looked, and they seen what to appear to be footprints actually developing in the snow, but no one there. So, there's that. Now we get into my personal experiences that I can really, really remember, that I can remember, even though I'm still a baby. Now we get into, my experience with the paranormal things that I have seen and had experiences with. Now, going into one, the house that we stayed in at the time. I can't remember, man. I was going into 3 years old, and all this happened so fast. It was just really me and my mother at the time. My father left, and he came down, to Tennessee for a while. So still me and my mother up north in Montana. The house where we stayed at the time being, it was in the city-ish type of deal. City town-ish, more like a city than a town. And there was a train track across the street from the house. Now, I would wake up every morning so I can see the train pass by. And before I had to go to bed, I would see the train pass by every night. Every night, I would see the train pass by. I don't know the story of this house. I don't. People that have came there and went. Again, I don't know how long we really lived in this in particular house, but for some reason, my mother really refuses to talk about this house. I can't get anything out of her from the house when it's brought up. Nothing at all. And I don't know why that is. But again, based on my just experience alone, a lot of this would take place really by myself. And one of the first things that I remember, I used to talk about my great 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 grandfather a lot. And I don't even know who the hell my great great grandfather is. I don't even know. I had to be told this story as I got older. Like, I don't remember it. And I guess I would talk about this person who was my grandfather, my great grandfather. I guess when I was a baby by myself, as a, growing up by myself, trying to play, trying to have a childhood, I guess I would talk about it. And no one could figure out where that's coming from. Why was it? And I do know that in some cases, kids at a young age, when they're toddlers, per se, can see and talk to spirits that adults can't see. And I happen to be one of them that can. And I say this because it's really damn near weird. It's scary because no one knew who the hell my great grandfather was. And one day, there were pictures being took, dressed up in a suit type of deal in my room, right? In my room. And one picture, I'm kind of pointing, and they thought I was just posing. But I wasn't. And there was something behind the camera guy. Mom hired somebody with the camera to come take some photos. What I saw behind the camera guy, I cannot explain. I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm gonna give it a try. Anybody that's seen the Predator movies, how the Predator turns invisible, you can see something ish like that. That's kind of how it was. The next thing going into that was in the bathroom. This was a big bathroom. It had a lot of cabinets for some reason. It was big. It was a bathroom, and I remember the color, specifically what the color was. It was green and pink. Not the green and pink that goes good together, just the ugliest fucking shade of pink and green that you can think of. And I remember I turned around for some odd reason. And I see something that it's like a shadow figure of like not just the shadow figures that people just describe, but this thing was like solid black. And I screamed. Oh, I fucking screamed. Mother comes running in. I tried to describe to her and tell her, but there was nothing behind this door at all. Crazy part is, I didn't even know how to open and close the door yet at this time. I was still a toddler. I was still I was still a toddler, you know? I didn't know how to open and close the doors just yet. And how the door closed, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. You know, I don't know. So, there was that one. Now, going into so many years later, as we would go back up there for see some family per se, my aunt and her kids stayed there. And we went there in 90, either 97, 98. And me, they moved into this house. They moved in to the house, right? Me, I'm not a family person. I'm not big on family. I don't associate with none of my relatives or cousins. I just don't care like that. I really don't. Especially on my father's side of the family. I don't fuck with them. I don't. But like, oh, he's coming to visit. Hey, you want to come spend the weekend at the house? Want to come spend the weekend at the house? I said, yeah. I didn't want to go inside it. I didn't want to go inside it. I did not want to go inside that house. I didn't want to sleep inside that house. So we all just agreed on, luckily one of my cousins brought up this, hey, can we camp outside? Sure. And that's what ended up happening. Out of all that time, I just didn't go inside the house. I did not want to go inside the house because it always made me feel completely uneasy. Again, I don't know the story of the house. I don't know the background on even why it's active like that, why it made me feel uneasy, on why I saw the things that I did see years prior as I was a toddler before I grew up as a kid. I still don't know why. I don't have a direct answer for you for that. I just didn't. Now, years again, we would go back up there for, I forget what reason. And it was before my freshman year, which was in 2006. And remind you, I'm about to be 28 coming up soon. in the next month. So we would go up there in 2006, and people that my parents knew who I didn't know, I don't care to know, went to the house because somebody else, again, moved in it who they knew, who I didn't know. And guys want to come inside. They went inside. I didn't go inside. Again, it was that feeling of being uneasy. Uneasy. Because whatever the house held, I'll never know till this day. And I'm curious to know now that I'm much older as an adult going into my early 30s exactly why is that house active the way it is. I never knew why. So going back, before we came down to Tennessee, my mother had the house blessed. Now, a lot of people think just because you bless something doesn't mean it's going to go away. That's not how it works. You have to continue doing certain things in order to keep it at bay. Nothing ever really goes away. So there's that. Now, I think one of the reasons why Montana is so active like that is because underground, there's like tunnels beyond tunnels of mine shafts. And there was an accident where a fire broke out of an explosion underground and killed a lot of miners years, so long time ago, and just killed them. So I do believe that has something to do with it because I don't think none of the bodies were really recovered at all. So you could imagine how unrestless their spirits are due to that. The time that we would, go up there, the time that we was up there, going back again, I remember it was me and my cousin, and him and his father was fixing up an apartment. So me and my cousin, we went outside, walked to the park as well, and me and him, we were on the swing. We felt like we were being watched. We felt like we were literally being watched. But we couldn't. But the feeling is like it wasn't like your normal feeling of being watched. And there was this room that was completely blacked out, abandoned, and boarded up. Right. But one of the windows you could still see through. We look up and we see this grayish figure looking at us, and we just took off. Man, we took off. Literally took off. So there would be that one. Now, the next story, I guess, which may have something to do with the paranormal. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it would have something to do with it. Here in the town where I stay at, it has history to it. And I mean literally history, complete history. The town where I stay at, which is Columbia, is where the first race riot broke out at. The town next to us is Pulaski, where the Klan first started at. And there is quite much activity in this town. You don't hear about it because sadly this town is so drugged out on meth. You don't know the fuck if you're coming or going, especially as a recovering addict, and they give you pills that on top of that makes the situation that much worse. And there was this duplex that stayed empty for quite some time. And for some reason, all of us kids felt weirded out by this in particular part of the house. It just felt weirded out. No, no one really knew why. But then check this part out, right? There was a friend of mine's, his sister. And one thing that she said that now stands out to me is completely, utterly insane to hear. Like, let me kind of paint a picture here. Like, there's like this small back porch, but you have like these two wooden walls right here. So both of these back doors have its own separate porch, has its own two wooden walls. And I guess to her, there was a guy supposedly lived next door, even though it was empty, but that never could be confirmed that there was an actual flesh and blood person like me and you were living in this house. But describes this guy would talk to her, and there will always be, and this door is always locked. There's no key to it, always locked. Would leave these empty glass cups outside on the back. And we would always just break them. And every day or every so, there was always be a new one. And that's what's fucking creepy. Goes into it. We always had this uneasy feeling that we were being watched from this house. Not from the back, but from the front side for some odd reason. And one of the rooms, there were curtains left in this place on the upstairs. And one of the rooms, I want to say on the right-hand side, maybe the left, were open for some reason. Just open, but you couldn't see inside it because it was so blacked out. Hold on, dogs are barking. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. So, now going back a bit. Now, my sister used to live in Indiana. She moved back there not long ago. And I remember it was me and my brother-in-law. And it was my niece's birthday on the 4th. And it was the 3rd before it became the 4th. It was the 3rd before it became the 4th. And we were lighting off fireworks, right? And my sister stayed in this, apartment complex place. And we dropped a lighter. Me and my brother-in-law, we dropped a lighter. And when we went to pick it back up, like, here's the roof of one of the apartments, right? Kid you not, a UFO. And I do believe that, we are not alone in this world. It's just not us. I do believe that there are actual other beings out there. A UFO literally hovering this close to the roof with lights, and then just took off like I can't explain how fast, but just took off. We went back inside and tried to describe what it is that we saw. So there's that. Going in, there used to be a park called, well, those that see this video, I'm not talking about Woodland Trailer Park. I'm talking about an actual park that was called Woodland Park, like an actual park that you could play at before the post office and all them was built. And one of the bathrooms were allegedly supposed to be haunted, heavily with activity. And the thing about that, like you could literally hear noise. You know, even the girls' bathroom, you know, none of the kids would go in there. And how we knew shit got too real is when the older teens or the young adults would be too afraid to go in there because of how heavily active one of these bathrooms were. And the scream that you would hear the most, so loud out of there, had to be one of the most. It was so fun. It didn't is what it wasn't a human scream. It literally wasn't. Now, throughout Colombia, there's a lot of burial sites that were built on top of. And I'm going to get a little bit more into that, but were built on top of. Going into now, I bring you guys to much more to the story now, where we get into the burial sites. So, on my Jazzy Entertainment channel, you guys will see I have some ghost exploring videos, the best that I can do, right? The best of it, which I can do. Going in before I started doing that, I want to take you guys back to 2009. It was my senior year in high school in 2009. All right. I had ISS the next day. A lot of people went to ISS or to the quote unquote auditorium room, right? Because there was this announcement that, then we had, back, we had the dress code, right? So there was this announcement that was made where they say, it was passed, you guys can now wear cargo pants. We were excited. Well, though, a lot of people did, but it was a setup just to write people up for no apparent reason, like a complete setup who would do it. I was one of them who went into school suspension. And it's not as bad as people made it out to seem, depending on who you know and who's in there. So there's that. Next day, we would go down to Dalton, Georgia. I told my mother what happened. Had a bad day. So we went down to Dalton, Georgia. I was not counted absent this next day. They counted me as there, which I have no idea how that even managed to happen. But went down to Dalton, Georgia. And we went to go pick up a dog, from there. And there's this woman who was a psychic. And not every person you're going to meet is going to be good in this world, but she studied witchcraft at that. And should have known, but it was well hidden. Going into this, she would you can attach things, demons, spirits, manifestations to pieces of clothing, jewelry. Doesn't matter. You can attach it to a computer if you wanted to. Anything, man, that you can really think of, you can attach something to. And she gave this model car to my dad. Every night that model car, doors would be open from it or closed because no one touched it. And this woman, she would come up here one night to spend the weekend. When she left a book called A Book of Prayers. And it was a book of spells that was some shit that you could conjure up. One night, I'm by myself here at the house. And this had to be aimed towards me. I'm home alone. I had the TV on, my lamp on. I got one of my dogs on the bed with me. I'm looking in the corner right here. I noticed the corner was getting black. And I'm looking, I'm like, huh, that's odd. And I kept looking, and what it manifested into, it scared the fuck out of me. Remind you, at this time, I'm much older. You know, I'm a senior in high school, getting ready to get out soon. Right. And I don't know how you guys know. I'm not, anybody that's a bit older, around my age, going to 28, 30s, 35. You know how you would get static TV back in the days before today's updated TVs, where it was like complete fuzz and made that noise. That's what it looked like. I ran the fuck out the house. I started crying. I didn't know what it was. And when I looked back, it was running back and forth in the house, and the dogs were going fucking apeshit. I'm frozen, not knowing what the hell to do. I just looked away. I could still hear the dogs barking, going apeshit at this thing, running back and forth. Mom comes home. She's like, well, what are you doing out here? I tell her, because I have this look on my face of fright, of fear. I tell her what happened. So we called my sister. She printed out some prayers that were needed for this thing to go away, and I had to say a lot. So she sent them to me. I had a Bible, and that Bible's put away, and it's put away because not everything that you read is going to be purified, because the Bible was rewritten 11 times. The first Bible was written in Africa, and there's a lot of things in there they don't want you to know about, which is hidden from the world. It's like they want to hide the devil's Bible from people, even though people really don't know about that. A lot of the other Bibles after that were written by white men. A lot of rewrites, a lot of different origin stories, a lot of changes, and a lot of words that are speaked out of that, which I noticed when I used to, I was raised from a Jehovah's Witness, Baptist, Jewish, and Christian, and then I left all that because I'm not a man of God. I'm a spiritual person. There's a complete difference. So not everything you read in these churches are going to be pure. And I notice a lot of people who speak these scriptures and pray and read the Bible, a lot of negative shit actually happens to them. And when I was reading these prayers that my sister sent me for this thing to go away, I had the Bible open to a certain chapter, right? Like I was supposed to do. It was raining outside, and this thing literally destroyed the Bible, and the Bible became wet and destroyed from water. Even though you can't rain in the house, but that's what ended up happening. Kid you not, and the pages were turning, so that Bible became contaminated. And it was no longer pure, and I had that put away. Just like I have some sunglasses and a shirt this woman got me, also put away. As I got older, I looked more into this deeper and beyond the expectations of what there are, and some things that I did learn. I don't want to say too much, man, but the God who you think there really is ain't really who you believe it is. And it's more than one, it's God's with apostrophe S. And with that part being said, you learn to have control of these things and have power. Speak the name, and the name has power. You have power over whatever the fuck it is, and beyond it, to where you have to control it. As you make it weaker, it's just gone like that. And that's what happens. So these things are put away. Right now, going a bit further, I remember one night, it was heavily storming out, right? Completely storming out. And It's just the storm didn't seem right. The lightning didn't seem right. One of the lightning strikes ended up showing a triangle ship, big as hell, which was another UFO. And this lightning strike, the next one formed into a dragon's face. After that, I started getting sick. I went to my mother, I feel weird. And I described her what it was that I saw. She didn't believe me at first, and I had to tell her again, like, look, because of this, I'm feeling weird. I feel weird. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I started hearing voices. I ended up getting sick. After that, there was this noise that followed for quite a while. It went away over time. We have a garage door. My garage door was moving, banging, making banging sounds, like just horrible banging sounds, man. I would go down there and I would go outside to see what it is. And here's the weird part. The garage door, it wasn't moving. But you could still fucking hear the banging sound on there. Luckily, that went away over time. Next encounter that I would have myself with the paranormal would be after graduation. My grandparents came down from my father's side of the family. They wanted to go to Rippavilla. Me, I've been there so many times as a kid when it came to field trips. So I didn't want to go, but I went. It was boring as shit for me. One part I didn't know about, there was a slave cemetery. I didn't want to go to it. It's disrespectful. Me, I'm mixed. And we went there, and spirits are going to let you know that you ain't welcome. They don't want people over there. So they're going to attack the one who's sensitive to this kind of stuff, one who can sense these things. And it's me. I got attacked. I felt sick to my stomach. Oh my God. I said, Mom, I gotta go. I feel sick. I felt fine before. It's like, what do you mean? They don't want us here. Who? The people that are buried here, they don't want no one here. I felt sick. So I went back to the car and waited. Going into the next encounter, which would be years later, probably back in 2013, I went to go see my sister up in Denver. She moves around a lot. But, went to go see my sister up in Denver. And we decided one night, me and her, and my nephew, and a couple of his cousins, I believe, who I don't know what the hell they would make. I don't know what they are to me. I don't know what relation. They were my aunt's kids. I don't know what relation that would have. Yeah, what relation would that be? If your aunt has kids, what does that make them to you? I have no idea. But there was this girl. One of the stories was there was this girl who died in the school playground. So we had this EVP recorder trying to ask questions. No responses. I'm recording this thing because I want to take some footage of my trip. I want to take some footage of my trip. Why not? Got flown back. What flashed on the screen did not really show her in person, but it flashed, and I actually have the screenshot of that on my Instagram page. I don't have the video, but I have the screenshot of the Instagram on my Instagram page, and it flew me back, whatever it was. And I showed my sister, and it was weird, Okay. Next encounter, which would be me and my ex best friend, right, was at Walmart and in the mall parking lot. We were at Walmart, middle of the day. Not too many people are going to be out at Walmart in the middle of the day. You may have some earlier in the day and at night, but never in the middle of the day. We were jewelry department. He was looking at, I forget what the fuck he was looking at. But I was in the mirror side, and I was looking at the mirror and trying to get rid of this pimple zit on my face. And I used to get horrible ass breakouts, and I still take pills for that. I do. I still take pills for that because I don't want that to come back. Even though you grow out of a certain age, but I still want to make sure those pills are still coming in. Because they seem to help. But, you know, we're next to each other, you know, we're shoulder close, you know. There's really no one around us. There's no one beside us. There's no one in front of us. There's no one in the back of us. Again, this is in the middle of the day. There's not going to be very many people out at Walmart in the middle of the day. And we hear literally right in our ears, hey. It was a decent hey at a level where you can, as you would say to whoever, you know. We immediately, on instinct, looked around. No one there. We got the fuck on out of there. I remember talking to a Walmart employee like a year ago or so. This Walmart employee, you know, her shift was late shift. And she had stories of Walmart with spirits in it. Or now, me and my friend's next encounter would be in the mall parking lot. Our mall here is practically dead. So you ain't gonna get much traffic anyways. Now you're gonna get much traffic. No, we're walking around and all we hear is cars. That's it. Other than that, no one really walks around, right? Those that do walk around the inside of the mall. We walk around the outside of the mall. What we would hear next, we literally just looked at each other, man, right? So check this. You know the sound of a toddler running towards you? Those footsteps of a toddler running towards you. That's what it sounded like. We hear the sound of running, of like children's feet. We look. Nobody there. Come to do research where the Walmart Mall is here was a Civil War burial ground. Yeah. Years later, from the mall to Applebee's, there's a story about a pit of snakes actually being buried in cement as well, along with some bodies. So there's that. The last encounter that I would have in my life, actually, I don't want to say the last encounter because there's another encounter that happened. And I do believe I still have this video footage on my Jazzy Entertainment channel in one of my first ghost exploring videos. I had an EVP recorder as well, so I had two phones with me. And a woman who used to work over at the old Pizza Hut building, you know, her boyfriend killed her and dumped her body there. You know, he killed her there, you know, behind the building, literally. And several years later, I went there to do my first EVP. It was in the middle of the daytime. Or really, no, it was daytime. Decent time during the day. And as I'm doing this EVP, I asked some questions. One of the questions I asked, do you need help? And I played it back. When I asked, do you need help? You can literally hear a faint, not faint, but not too faint, but outer voice of somebody that's no longer living. You could hear the word yes. And it was a female voice. Again, it was a woman that got killed by her boyfriend behind the old Pizza Hut building where she worked at. That's what I heard. I heard that in particular faint sound. That outer body voice of a woman When I asked, do you need help? Yes. Holy shit. The last encounter I would have with the realm of spiritual worlds. Sitting in my room. Actually, you know what? Not just yet. There's just another story. So me and my other friend, who I don't see anymore either. I had this bed. I called it my lowrider bed, man. It's one of them beds, man. It was just a little bit low to the ground, even though there was still an under per se. It was a long bed. I was playing a movie. We had some games going. I had my phone on my bed, right? At a distance to where it's on there, it's not gonna fall off. It can't go anywhere. And then all of a sudden it flies off my bed. Boom. We looked at each other. What the fuck? Thank you. I said thank you those that would say bless me in this video. Now, next story, going into this, my mother went away for a while. Her room was empty, but when you do negative things, you bring actual negative energy into existence. I'm in my room one night around 3 o'clock at midnight, and I don't go to. I'm hearing what sounds like my mother's cough and her gate opening in her room with the sound of her footsteps. When you're around people for so long, you recognize the sound of their footsteps before they come. And you recognize a person's cough as well. And I had this look up. I'm like, what was that? I'm like, that sounds like, I hear whimpering at her door because we have some pets. Now, we had pets that, passed away throughout the time. This was one of them that did pass several years ago. Whimpering at her door. I turn on the hallway light, click. The dog's howling. I come for the dog. I look. My mother's room, so fucking complete black. Because the things that she had in that room were stolen stuff that had negative energy in it from that situation. Why she had to go away, for a while. And I decided to take it upon myself to go in that room and sleep in there overnight till daytime. And whatever was in that room went away when I went in there. And when she got out, I said, you got to get rid of your shit, what you have stolen. Well, what do you mean? And I told her specifically what happened. She's like, I get it. It has to go. So now we get to my last encounter that I would really have with the paranormal. Because of how much I evolved with my energy, spiritual energy, me really being actual woke, things no longer seem to bother me. I no longer get encounters anymore. That's when I would feel a hand on my shoulder. I looked back and then that was it. So, these are my paranormal ghost stories. I may not have the voice for the stories, but I got stories for you guys nonetheless. The last thing I want to say, man, I wish it wasn't raining from this day. And you guys need to be careful on Halloween. Halloween in 97, I had two friends of mine who were kidnapped, beaten, raped, and killed on the fence right behind the post office here in town. And right behind that fence is a basketball and a tennis court that King's daughters now own. It used to be open to the public, and that's the last remaining evidence, proof that there was a park over near there before the post office and everything got built in that little strip plaza. It literally got beaten and hung right behind that fence on Halloween. The person that did it was a child molester, and his friend the night before Halloween broke out of jail. And this guy, his partner, who was out not the one that didn't break up, the one who was out with toxic kids. That come to find out, their house was on one of the old entrances to Nashville Highway that people don't take anymore. And the house is no longer there. It got torn down, but there was a lot of pictures of a lot of kids. And I knew that I was one of those kids so many years later of pictures that were took. And that's why you need to be careful on Halloween. I can see why. I understand going back to what I said. Hey, man, about Halloween not being Halloween anymore, but that's one of the reasons why I don't celebrate it anymore because of what happened to my friends. And I know if you're a parent, man, like, yeah, you don't really walk your kids anymore. You want them to be in cars and be safe and take them to these malls and places for trick or treating, but you still want them to have a childhood. Me, I still believe in some old ways, but I also believe in safety. Me, I grew up fighting. I'm a fighter. I don't mean boxing or anything, but I grew up with a rough life. I had to come up fighting. I've literally been fighting my whole life. I'm still fighting, but the thing is, you do have to be safe out here because shit like that can happen, man. The Roxy sisters, they didn't deserve that. And I blame one of my friends, who I used to call friend, for their murder because he encountered and talked to the guy that did it. He was fucking friends with him, introducing them to all of them. And yeah, he had problems with the Roxy sisters, man, but he didn't do nothing to deserve it. He was a fucking bully. I'll say that. And I blame him for their death. I do. I literally fucking do. But, you do have to be careful out here, man, because, again, with me, I was just brought up different. Where you dressed up, where you put effort in, where you actually went out trick or treat for. You wouldn't even really go home till like 12 at midnight. You would come home with some bags of candy. Nowadays, it's not like that. Yeah, we've been living in a crazy world, man. It ain't nothing new. And I'm telling you guys, you do need to be careful on any given day. I know it's the holiday season, and that's when things get the most. What's the word I'm looking for? Wildest, up, ruckish. So yeah, and I'm out. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. Please be safe on any day, especially these upcoming holidays, 'cause things can get